Hi everyone, I'm Victor calling from Hong Kong, from the Hong Kong chapter, and I'm very excited to be here with Lavinia today to share a bit about 2 cents on how to process emotions in a healthy and productive way. So maybe I'm just going to start with a very quick intro about myself. I'm born and raised in Hong Kong, and currently I'm a yoga teacher, and I've been practicing yoga for over half of my life, for over 20 years now, and I've been teaching for a very, very long time. And what I love about yoga is that it always challenges me mentally and physically, so I can grow into a more mature and a calmer person. And I really love that aspect of yoga, and share that with my students and my friends. And I've been teaching yoga everywhere in the world, and I think people are always looking for something that will make them happy, but then they often forget that that something can often be found within themselves. So this is why I love teaching yoga. So that's enough about me. I really wanted to meet Lavinia, at least virtually for now. So why don't you tell us more about yourself, Lavinia?
My name is Lavinia, or you can call me Rosie. That's my Christian name. I'm from the Singapore chapter, and I do a lot of things, but mainly my focus is dance and dance fitness. I've been running Dance Embassy for the past 10 years now, so it's our 10th year anniversary today, and we have over 4,000 students, both in group classes and corporates. And I've also been chosen and was as one of the top 20 female entrepreneurs by ZTV APAC. And I've also been crowned as Mrs. Singapore long time ago. And yeah, so I love to dance. I loved dancing since I could ever remember, but I wasn't really encouraged into the art scene because being born as a Singaporean, as most of y'all know, we are raised by tiger mom and dads. So
Mm-hmm.
studies were like the most important thing for us, and rest of it, we should just do it as a hobby. And I took this on as a career. After getting my studies and after being in the corporate world for a few years, I realized that my passion really lies in dancing and also influencing other people to dance. And it's the endorphins that you get from it that makes you feel really good. And I think it's much needed in this world of stress and just pursuing things like money. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
money is important, but people forget their mental wellness is also important in pursuit. I'm glad that this topic is something that DLC has chosen to raise because not many people talk about it.
Mm.
And let's get started.
Yeah, I mean, Lavinia, I've always been quite, I would say, body aware when it comes to movement and all that. But there's something that I'm always very, scared to try, and, which is dance, because, I used to think that I was a very good dancer, but I only was pointed out to me that I was a good dancer after like 3 or 4 glasses of wine. And then when I saw videos of me dancing, I was like, oh my God, I was such a fool. So there's a saying that goes like, dance like nobody's watching. But how do you get so good at dance? And how can dance improve one's confidence and make them feel more empowered?
For me, I wasn't born a dancer, right? And I'm a self-taught dancer, to be honest. So every time
Mm,
there is a variety show that comes on TV, I'm dancing at the back without my parents watching what I was up to. So when
mm,
anyone says that they have 2 left feet, I I don't laugh at their face, but I'm like, okay, this is a challenge for me to make sure that they can execute it. And
mm,
not as intimidating as what people think it is. Like, of course, you don't compare yourself to like really professional dancers. It goes step by step, just like yoga, right? You're
yeah.
not really flexible in the first class itself. It takes a
Mm,
lot of practice and commitment. And for me, dance was an avenue to release my stress, and I was also going through a period of really dark times and depression. And scientifically, dance releases those feel good hormones that
mm,
make you just forget about what you are feeling your low times momentarily, of course you can seek professional help to help you resolve those depression, but dance that momentarily relief that one needs. And it actually helped a lot in my case. And I also realized that all the students, most of the students that come for my classes, they don't say how stressed they are, but they come with in classes like, it's a heavy day at work, starting me up the wall. But after class, they leave with renewed energy, you know, and that's what I live by. I'm sure you as an instructor also can relate to how
Yeah,
your students feel good, you feel good, right? How
exactly.
what do you see in your students?
Yeah, I mean, they come to my classes for a variety of reasons. Some of them to release any stress, and some of them want to get better at headstand or handstand, which is actually what I specialize in. And some of them, just want to, get into a more meditative state. And I help them through the movement of yoga, through the consciousness on the breathing. And I think there is a lot of, historically, there's a lot of similarities and a lot of actually crossovers between yoga and dance because, Lord Shiva, one of his names is basically a dance god, Nataraja, Natarajasana. So, I really wish that I could actually pick up that aspect of him, but, I got the asana part, but not the dance part. And so, after the class, sometimes I challenge them to go upside down. Sometimes, I challenge them to actually not move, because not moving sometimes for us is actually harder than moving, because we're born to move. And in yoga, that kind of, stillness, you can only be achieved by burning all of your excess energy, and to focus on your breathing. And I think that's probably the same reason why people, after, going for a dance and, for a run and for some really strong exercise, they feel very relieved, because they have nothing else to think about. They only focus on the breath. They focus on the body for an hour or 2 hours or so. And I think that that's the beautiful thing about, yoga or dance. Yeah. And I think, as us as coaches, it's really great to see how our students can evolve and sometimes even, get better at it than ourselves. And I think that's the empowerment part of being an instructor. Yeah. And so, I mentioned earlier, dance like no one's watching. Do people worry about other people looking at them dance? I mean, I do, even though I know I shouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, does that happen a lot? Like, do people worry about how people think of them when they do, Bollywood dancing?
You sound more Indian than me. You seem to know more. um, for dance like no one is watching, yes, a lot of them feel conscious. So I realized that there was a gap in the industry in that sense, because there was a kind of persona that was portrayed about how a dancer should look. And also I'm sure like how a yogi should look, right? Like slim,
Yes.
slender. And I didn't want to grow that kind of community in my classes. So I was very wary of that. So I put myself in the forefront as the scapegoat. So after students, I said, no one is looking at your ass, everybody's looking at mine. So just dance it out, dance. So I'm always like consciously telling them, don't be too hard on yourself, just smile. And I'm always coming to them as they'll be like dancing like that, and I'm like, open up, smile. So that's the main focus in my classes. I just want them to have a good time. Dance later, and I don't change my routine often. So I tell them, the more regular you are, the easier it is, because my routines will stay the same for a couple of weeks before I change it up here and there. How about you? Like,
I love how you talk about routine, because we're all creatures of habits. Because for us to get something, get better at anything, we just have to repeat it. And I think that applies to many different aspects in life. Like in yoga, if you want to be more flexible, you go to a yoga class, or you want to improve your core strength, you do more plank pose or like crow pose or whatnot. But you don't, none of us are born with all these like natural talents, except maybe if you're Beethoven or Mozart, but they are very, very extreme, cases, right? So, if we can bring that same mindset, that routine, the repetition, that, one of my teachers, Baron Baptist, he says, repetition is the mother of skills. Because if you want to get something, get it, improve something, you just have to repeat it. And I use that kind of mantra into my other aspects of life. So, remember during lockdown, everyone suddenly became obsessed with baking. I don't know if that actually happened in Singapore, but in Hong Kong, because people have so much time, they started sourdough dating and baking. and so, and actually I've been,
the dalgona coffee or something.
Yes, the Korean coffee, right?
Yeah.
So I actually have been baking for 10 years, actually before, the rave of baking during COVID. And I've been baking for so long. I can show you some of my bread pictures later. But, and for me to be good at it, I've been just doing it for 10 years, regardless of COVID. And same for like my handstand, and same recently I picked up a stand-up paddleboard. And I'm basically obsessed with it. And I just go out to the sea every single day and just to repeat it. And it's so great that you mentioned a routine, because if we change out the way we practice, if we change the sequence all the time, and we won't be able to learn something. And that can be applied to everything in life, like driving, entrepreneurship, doing business, working with other people, and even, anything in like relationships, right? And so I really love, and when I teach yoga, it's really pretty much the same sequence every single time, but I add in some variations here and there when, when they are good at already something in the sequence, and then I add in more poses. So I think it's a great idea to learn.
Yeah. It's less stressful also for the one that's learning, when they know that it's something that's repetitive and they can catch up easily. It comes kind of like an automated motor skill that they acquire right through it.
Yeah. And I think, that kind of practice, and can be also applied to, you being a, you have many hats. I was looking at your bio, and last time when we were doing, a briefing call, you were talking to your, I think that was your husband, right? And then you also had a baby, and you have like a few yoga studios to run, dance studio to run. How, I know that, yes, practice it takes practice, but how do you manage all of that at the same time? I can't even just handle my partner,
I would say it's really challenging, but I take inspirations from the women around me, and I'm very glad to be surrounded by really positive and inspiring women. And so even I myself, sometimes I'm like, I might just kill my husband one day, and then I talk to another woman about it, and she'll be like, I feel the same way. So you are not alone in any of the, I feel. So you really need to have a very good support system, and that comes back to the community, right? And that's the kind of community that I've built surrounding Dance Embassy, because within our Dance Embassy community, we are like family, and most of us are women, be it single, professional, mothers. We all somehow can relate to each other at different stages of our lives. And I think that is also one of the most healthy ways to build a community around yourself, because when you're down and out and you need someone to speak to, go to a yoga class or go to my dance class, and you can speak to someone there.
And
our community like?
My community. So I've been teaching yoga for so long, and I have communities here and there. And I think, my community was actually quite scattered before COVID, because I was flying around the globe and teaching different groups of people. But maybe thanks to COVID, as a silver lining, I got to stay in Hong Kong, a lot more. And so I was able to actually reconnect with my students in Hong Kong and build up more connections in Hong Kong, but not like just business connections, but like a more genuine, on a deeper level, actually help them, through the trainings that I teach, help them, go through hard times during COVID, getting sick, losing someone important. And some of my students, actually, they're newlyweds, but then because of COVID, they actually get to see each other too much. And then they got divorced. Sometimes I think COVID strengthens relationships, sometimes it doesn't. And I think, with yoga, and also with, I'm sure with, and empowerment through dancing, through the dance, through the sweat, and knowing that you have a network, a support system that you can rely on. And I'm sure this is how we will find sometimes our safety net, to be honest. And yeah. And I remember how you went through, I think you mentioned earlier that you had postpartum depression. And how did you use dance? Did dance help you to go through that very difficult times of your life?
Definitely. So postpartum depression, I didn't have it when I had my first kid, and I assumed that I wouldn't have it when I have my second kid.
Mm-hmm.
But when my second came along, when I went through it, it hit me quite in the face. And I recognized it because my background is psychology, so I could see the symptoms that I was facing, and I immediately knew that I was going through depression. I also immediately knew that dance was going to help me in a way, like momentarily break that cycle that I was in. But I also sought help. I also sought professional help. But back to the community aspect, I was very vulnerable about it. I did speak to my students. I said, listen, this is how I'm feeling. But when I'm starting back dance classes, don't worry, my energy will still be the same. And I had to assure them that nothing will change in the class. But that was me speaking as an entrepreneur. Like, I was afraid that my business will fail if I fail as an instructor. All my students told me, you take your time.
Yeah.
Time to come back. We will be there waiting for you. And that actually moved me to tears, because that was what I ever dreamt of. The community that I ever dreamt of having, like, they will not leave me just because I'm facing some trouble. They are with me instead of against me. So that actually helped me a lot, just to think that I wasn't alone in this, and there were lots of other women who also went through the same journey as me with postpartum depression, and they shared with me as well. So I think you are vulnerable, and when you put yourself out there, people respond kindly.
And I love how you are you're not afraid of showing your vulnerability, because a lot of people think that when you're vulnerable, when you show your vulnerability, that means you're weak. But actually, when we admit that we are in trouble, we are vulnerable, we're human, we are not perfect, that will actually make you stronger and make you a more humble person. And, because a lot of times, me included, that I've seen a lot of cases where people will just not ask for help because of ego or pride. And then they just go deeper into the abyss, really. And before they know it, they're basically in, a lot of deep four-letter word. And so they can't dig themselves out. And as soon as they start to realize that, okay, well, I can be vulnerable, I can dance like a fool, and nobody is gonna watch except for me, myself. I keep telling myself that. And then actually you become stronger as a person. You grow out of this darkness a stronger person.
Yeah, so true. And I also think that having the right lifestyle is also important in a way. with
Mm-hmm.
food is also a major component that I think people forget how we can help with processing emotions. Like people
Yep.
process emotions by stuffing their face with sweets or cakes, or
Mm.
but they don't know that that's actually going to make them feel
Mm-hmm.
worse. Um, what are some trends in yoga that helps in both mental and physical
Mm.
in a person's lifestyle?
Um, I think, people, I've come across a lot of people um, who want to do yoga, but stop themselves from doing that because they think this is, so you have to be flexible to do yoga, you have to be young, you have to be skinny to do yoga, or, I have to have some sort of like religious affiliation to Hinduism to do yoga, or and they stop doing that because, oh, I'm Catholic and I can't do yoga. I'm not flexible enough, so I won't do yoga. I can't sit still, so I can't do yoga. And I keep telling those people, okay, let's say, so first of all, yoga isn't about flexibility, okay? But, you know, if, and let's say even yoga is about flexibility. And if you're not flexible, isn't that the reason why you should go to yoga, to become more flexible? And I think I've heard one of the teachers say, if you say you're too inflexible to do yoga, it's like you're saying you're too dirty to take a shower, to not take a shower. So I think it's exactly the same thing. And there's a lot of new different trends to do yoga. Like there are more old school style of yoga, like hatha yoga, and ashtanga and iyengar yoga. And there are more newer styles like vinyasa yoga. I actually founded a new style of a sequence of yoga called empowered flow, which is a vinyasa or flow like yoga to help people on the physical level, to build up more strength physically. But then because the flow actually will prepare you for going upside down, so it will also challenge you to go upside down. So you have to have the physical strength and also the mental strength, because most of the time when people are not going upside down is because they are worried about falling down. What I'm trying to say is there are many different styles of yoga, but the thing is, you just have to go to a yoga class. If you're newer to yoga class, and give yourself some time, because I guess because of all this social media, Instagram, Facebook, and whatnot, we tend to see results instantly. But with yoga and dance or any skills, it will take time. And time is in an essence of everything that we do. And I actually wanted to kind of like steer off track a little bit. I do a lot of sourdough baking, and it was good, but it wasn't great. And until I watched this YouTube video, and the baker, she said, okay, well, to bake sourdough, we have to have like flour, water, the sourdough starter, salt, and blah blah blah. And also time. Time is one of the key ingredients. And when I heard her say that on the video, I was like, the emoji, mind blown emoji. Basically, I was doing that, mind blown. And when I included time as an ingredient, my bread became so much better. And I think people, they don't invest enough time in anything they do, and that includes relationships. We think that we'll meet someone, Tinder, whatnot, and then we'll find our love overnight. You know what? Relationships are hard work. You're married. I'm in a 14-year-old relationship. My mom and dad have been married for over 40 years now. I mean, it's such hard work, and it takes a lot of time. And so, whatever trends that you kind of engage yourself in, whether it's yoga, whether it's dance, I would say to anyone, give yourself some time. And I love, speaking of time, I love how very experienced dancer, when I see them on stage or on video, they just look so into it. They are basically, they don't even have to think about the moves. They look so, I don't know, it sounds a bit cliche, like and their mind and the body are just united, like be one with themselves or with Lord Shiva. I don't know. How would you, have you ever experienced that? Or like, how do you do that?
Yeah, so when I tell people I'm an introvert by nature, no one believes me because in
Mm,
class I'm like all over the place. I'm such an extrovert, and
mm,
that's what dance helps me to become an extroverted person, because you just have to put yourself out there and trust the process and
mm,
just go for it, right? And that's what I tell all my students. I say, don't be too hard on yourself. Just let go,
mm,
and your
yeah.
energy kind of like gets transferred to the other person. So me as
Mm,
an instructor, if I'm not feeling too good on that day, my energy is low, I feed off energy of another person in
mm.
class. How my students are as well. If my energy is low, they kind of like feel it, and it's like, are you not feeling well today? I'm like, yeah. And then they will hype up the class themselves. So I'm sure the energy flow, you will also know about it, because that's a lot in yoga as well, right?
Mm,
um,
yeah.
what are some tips that you think you can share when it comes to a professional person in a corporate world feeling
Mm,
low energy?
mm. Um, People tend to think that, okay, when I practice yoga, it will have to be, oh, on a yoga mat, or like it has to be 1 hour, or like 45 minutes. But the but yoga is actually everywhere. I know it sounds like a cliche, but you can actually do yoga anywhere you want and anytime. And to be honest, what we understand as yoga, the yoga poses, are just really the tip of an iceberg of what yoga really is about. Yoga is about breathing. Yoga is about the meditation. Yoga is about sometimes how we conduct ourselves, and how we improve internally, and how we project ourselves to the outside world. But that's a totally different topic. But then on a more kind of like grounded level in an office, I would say focus on the breathing first. Just breathe more deeply. One of the ways that I tell my students to breathe is to breathe in and count to 4. So inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4. It's really that simple. And they can do it anytime. They can even do it without anyone noticing. And that's the easiest way to actually practice yoga. But on a more physical level, now with that breathing technique, it will already help you calm down. So before you want to shout at your staff, or just yell at anyone in a meeting, just do that right before you start. You want to do that, and you want to yell at someone, and probably you won't need to yell at someone, because it's not that big a deal, whatever you're going to yell at them about. And then the other thing is, just move more. Like when you're seated, like roll the shoulders, roll the neck, and instead of sending an email or using the phone, if now most people are now back in the office, just walk to their desk and talk to them. Because first of all, movement, walking, even though it's just walking, it's already beneficial to your health, much better than sitting. And secondly, when you talk to a person face to face, it will actually build up a deeper connection with that colleague of yours. So that's already yoga. But the thing is, I highly suggest breathing and move more, even within the office.
Yeah, such great tips. For me, it's the opposite. When I tell my clients that when you're feeling stressed, you just put you on your AirPod, play a Beyonce song or a Shahid Kapoor song, a Bollywood song, and instantly your mood gets elevated and you're in
Mm-hmm.
mode, and your stress just melts away, and you know that life is all about YOLO, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no, it's not worth stressing much. It's easier
Mm-hmm.
said than done. And back
Yeah.
to the habit, I think it's just we have to just put it in our system that we have to create that habit.
Yeah. So I think, like you said, like you pointed out, stress. We are all living under some sort of stress we cannot, avoid. But I think it's more about, managing stress. And I think, yoga and dance that have very deep roots from, let's say, India, or for whatever culture you're from, they're great activity, and they can actually help us to enhance our well-being, to become more aware of our behavior, to become more aware of movement, how we conduct with other people, and how we conduct with ourselves. And I think it's a great way to relieve stress. And I think when I will most likely go to Singapore in June, and I would really want to take up some dance lessons with you, Lavinia.
Yes, I also want to add that doing yoga, doing dance, all these are anti-ages. So you don't need
Yes,
fancy facials or creams or serums or whatever. Your
I
collagen
know.
as long as you do some activity.
I know. Yeah,
Now,
I'm actually 153, so
thank you, Victor. This was a great chat.
thank you so much for
Yeah.
your time. I really enjoy, exchange, just talking about random stuff, and also some useful stuff as well with you.
So thank you, DLC, for this opportunity to share. I mean, it's a great platform, and I'm really glad to be doing this with Victor. So thank you, Victor, as well. Anybody who is residing in Singapore, feel free to come for my classes. Just go to the website and see what classes you love to go for, and I'll be more than happy to give you a free class. And that's it. That's as simple as it gets.
Yeah, thank you, DLC, for this platform. I think it's a great opportunity for us like-minded people to share what we love, to improve other people's lives, and to empower them in their daily lives. And if you want to get in touch with me, you have my Instagram, Victor Chau Yoga. Also, website is the same name, and I teach a lot of teacher trainings and workshops, helping people going upside down to conquer their fear. And hopefully we'll have some fun together. So I really look forward to seeing you in Hong Kong or in Singapore. Everyone is welcome. Thank you.